Coming up on Central News, Living with MS, the Bay of Plenty Symphonia and our volunteer firefighters. Kia ora, welcome to Central News for Monday the 3rd of November. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Suburbs Community Sports Club recently had success at the Waikato Rugby Union Awards, winning Waikato Club of the Year and Waikato Junior Coach of the Year. Anne-Marie spoke with club manager Mike Gregan and award-winning junior coach Mark Anderson about the awards and why Eastern Suburbs Rugby Club changed its name.
Yeah, you probably dropped the Eastern part of it because as we changed the name and we wanted to involve the community that we were sort of involved with and other sports instead of just rugby. So by having that, by dropping Eastern Suburbs and having it as a community sports club, we're trying to engage the community to use the club and to engage other sports.
Tell me about the success last week at the Waikato Rugby Union Awards.
Absolutely brilliant. It was great to be acknowledged with all the hard work that everyone's done here to finally get a piece of, I suppose, silverware or glassware you can call it, in our cabinets, so it's great.
Mark, tell me about the team you coached.
Oh, they're a great bunch of kids. They're motivated. They gelled really well as a team, and we built up a really good team culture that brought us the goods at the end of the year.
What age were the children?
Pretty much year 7, year 8, so 11, 12-year-olds.
Any standout players?
There's a number of standout players, in particular Luca Den Hertog had a fantastic season, Solomona had a fantastic season, but they're the stars, I guess, but there were some really good grafters in the team. Talent was pretty well spread across the paddock.
Mike, what do you believe makes Mark worthy of the title of Junior Coach of the Year?
Oh, I think he's probably had a fairly bit of hard work going on behind the scenes. Previous clubs or teams that he's coached before, done rep teams before, and just by having the whole of all the parents behind him and the team, that helps. And decent manager and just a decent assistant coach, but yeah, it would be belief from the kids, because at that age group the kids have got to give you a bit of respect, and if they believe in what you're doing, they'll take it onto the park as well. So,
Mark, what do you think is the most important aspect of being a coach, especially when it comes to kids?
The kids have got to have fun. If they enjoy it, they'll come to training. If they enjoy it, they soak it up. They have to have some self-belief as a team, but one thing I really like to do is always end the trainings with a game of some sort, often non-rugby related, just so that their last taste of training was something that was good fun, get them coming back for next time.
What do you think you might do differently to other coaches?
Well, that may be part of it. I just really feel that when they leave training that they have to leave with a really good taste in their mouth. Once they get to year 7, year 8, they have to understand that they aren't individuals. The sum of the team is greater than the individual parts, or added together. So they have to understand that it's a team game by that stage, and that's one of the big transitions they have to get sorted in their own mind.
Mike, as winners of Waikato Club of the Year, what do you think got you across the line? What do you do differently to other clubs?
Probably hard. It is probably hard to say, but I think it's probably the hard work that's gone on here. The development of the junior club and slowly getting into the senior club, having 33 odd junior teams ranging from 6th grade through to 12th grade. So there's a fairly big club, 420 junior players, which you've got around about 60 coaches and the same in assistant coaches and managers. So it's a fairly big part of it. And just being family orientated and I suppose giving back to the community and not just sort of taking rugby on board. It's just the whole package.
For more details, check out their Facebook page, facebook.com/Suburbs Community Sports Club. And our next story, MS or multiple sclerosis affects approximately 4,000 New Zealanders. There is currently no cure and symptoms can vary widely. I spoke to the Bay of Plenty MS Society to see if anything is known about what causes the chronic disease of the central nervous system.
No, they don't know. They're looking into it. There's a lot of research going on, but they still have not been able to identify what actually causes it. There are some genetic factors, but there are also environmental factors. So, yeah, I guess when they find the cause, they'll find the answer.
Can you explain a day in the life of someone with MS?
Yes, but it's not like the disease. It's not a straightforward course. So it depends. We have people that are still working that have MS and managing very well, and other people who have ended up not so well off. They might be in a wheelchair, they'll need carers coming in, they might need someone to put them into bed at night and come back in the morning and get them up, and just depending on where they're at, depending on their level of care that they require.
Rachel, what's your experience with MS?
I have 3 family members that have multiple sclerosis, so it's nice to be able to be in the society and help those people, but also the other members that need assistance.
And how would you describe a day in the life?
It's obviously different, and you get struck with this, the blow of having something different to deal with. It's a challenge at first to get your head around these different changes and what have you, but I think staying positive, doing everything that you can do, so for those that can go and do the exercise and then the diet and what have you is important, and just positiveness. So the mind is a very powerful tool. Staying positive and upbeat as much as you can would certainly help.
Would you say MS is one of the more unknown diseases?
I think MS is becoming more widely known. We've got about 4,000 people in New Zealand, and it's known around the world now, and MS is becoming a lot more understood, and it affects a wide amount of people. So 3 times as many women as men, 3 women to 1 man are diagnosed. But there's a whole international movement around MS now, and I think that they're getting out there really trying to promote people to understand neurological disorders and take out all the stigma out of it.
And of course, a great way to create awareness is the tour of Tauranga that you guys are holding.
So one of our major fundraising events is the Tour of Tauranga with our bike ride event. This is the 3rd year running, so it's just something to have the funds coming in for the society, which are much needed obviously, and awareness, creating the awareness of the multiple sclerosis. And so just a really fun event for people to get involved in and have a nice day.
What can we expect on that day? Will we be stuffed by the end of it?
Hopefully not too much. It's just first and foremost a fun morning, so hopefully sunny morning. Nice scenic tour around Tauranga, so 25k course, and then a 12k course for the not so maybe fit people and family orientated.
Why a bike ride?
This is the 3rd year running. We had a member on board that was heavily involved in these sorts of activities and decided to run an event of this such, so we're going ahead with it.
And where can we go to find out more information about it?
So we've got a website, Tour of Tauranga, a website, we've got a Facebook page, Tour of Tauranga, and pretty much everything is on those 2 pieces of information.
If you'd like to get on your bike and take the tour of Tauranga, it is on Sunday the 9th of November. To register, visit touroftauranga.co.nz. Coming up next on Central News, the Bay of Plenty Symphonia. Welcome back to Central News on TV Central. The Bay of Plenty Symphonia is a community orchestra with members from all over the Bay. They have a concert coming up, so I caught up with the conductor. Now tell me about what you have planned for the next concert.
Our next concert will be in November 23rd, and we have 4 pieces on the program. Probably the 2 pieces are very well known. One is selections of the Swan Lake, the ballet by Tchaikovsky, and a Bruch Violin Concerto, also a bit of an evergreen of the repertoire. And then we have 2 other pieces which are probably not so well known. One is a short piece by Charles Ives, an American composer, called The Unanswered Question, very interesting piece. And then we have a symphony that we often put on. In this case, that will be a Sibelius symphony, the Finnish composer, number 3 in C major.
With Swan Lake ballet music, and there's those classical pieces like the B piece by Tchaikovsky. That's Tchaikovsky, isn't it?
Tchaikovsky,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and people know it so well.
Yes.
Is there extra pressure to get it right because these classical pieces have been around for years and everyone knows all the kind
In
of...
some ways, the pressure is when you program it, I think. So if you choose to do that piece, then you do think about, oh gosh, everybody's knowing this piece. So I only want to put it on if I play it in such a way that it is satisfying to them, and that of course means that we can't do some pieces as a community orchestra. But I would say there's a bit of an irony going on in music that in order to attract good audience, you have to put well-known pieces on because a large portion of the audience prefers to hear the familiar. We have luckily also some other ones who have an appetite for the unknown. But whilst they expect to hear the well-known pieces, then they listen to it and they expect it to sound exactly the same as their CD. And that's a bit of a pressure that all musicians are under. Also, I would say professional orchestras. If you go to, for example, the NZSO, of course, fantastic orchestra and fantastic musicians, but I always sometimes feel that they do sound a little bit too much like the CD that I've already heard. I would like to be surprised a little bit more by a bit more creativity in how they perform things, and I feel that pressure more. So to make it the same as it's always played, more than to play it perfectly, because I think people are quite tolerant for a community orchestra such as ours.
Yeah, there is that element, isn't it? You know, you want it to sound exactly like the CD, unlike when you go to a concert of pop music or alternative music. You know, they kind of change it up quite a bit, don't they? On that.
And jazz, of course, is completely improvised, so it's the other end of the spectrum where people deliberately not want to hear what they've already heard before. But I sometimes wish that we could do a bit more surprising in how we perform, but I have to be very careful with that in classical music, unfortunately.
Such a very strict genre.
It is a little bit too strict, if you ask me, but yes.
Now, you do have a solo artist as well.
That's Dimitri Atanasov. He's been around, I'm not sure, a decade, I think, in New Zealand, and most people will know him as the concertmaster of the Auckland Philharmonia, which he doesn't do anymore, but he's been doing it for quite a couple of years, and he's been playing solo with them, but also with other orchestras. So through the country, people will have seen him play solo, including the Bruch, which is the piece that we are doing with him. Very accomplished artist.
And what instrument does he play?
He plays violin, sorry, yes. The concertmaster plays the violin, and then normally he's part of the orchestra, but sometimes he plays solo as well, so he's a bit of both.
Now, the BOP Symphonia has members from all over the Bay of Plenty.
That's right, yes.
How do you guys keep full-time jobs and come together
well,
and practice?
I can tell you it's a nightmare. We have about an orchestra of 50, 60 typically. We just did a survey, and 1/3 of our players are actually from out of town. So we're Tauranga based, which is where we do most, though not all, of our concerts. And 1/3 come from places like Rotorua, Kaiti, and Te Puke, and sometimes even Matamata and Cambridge. And of course, it's difficult to coordinate that. People have conflicting interests in their lives. And one thing, of course, we do is we stick to a regular rehearsal evening, which is Thursday evening for us. And we then hope that people keep that free as much as they can, which is usually possible. But yeah, it's like playing for a football team. If you, as an amateur, if you want to play football, you have to practice or train with your team, which means you have to be prepared to reserve a particular part of your life, and that can be a particular evening in the week, for your hobby, and that's what most people do. So in that sense it works, but there are so many unforeseen things happening that it can be a real challenge to, and in some ways it's a miracle we actually get 60 people on stage at the same time when we have our concerts, which is what makes it satisfying.
I guess that brings me to my next question. I mean, is there still a audience for classical music, or is it a dying genre?
It's hard to get audiences. I have to say that the Bay of Plenty Symphonia, compared to other community orchestras I know, is blessed with a healthy orchestra, with a healthy audience. For some community orchestra, it's a real struggle, particularly in the big towns where they have to compete with other orchestras and other cultural activities. So we do have an audience, but in order for us to break even financially, which is what we try, I have to say we're a bit short of that, and we are constantly trying to find more audience. And I think you're right. It probably gets tougher and tougher to attract people. because of competing media like television and computers and internet and those kind of things. But there's no doubt that there is still a market for it. And it's just a matter of making your concerts attractive enough for them to leave their sofa and get in the car and make it to your concert.
So what is it then about live classical music? What does that give you compared to hearing it on the radio?
On the CD. Well, it's hard to describe what it feels like to be in a concert. I think it probably is a bit the same as a rock concert in the sense it is not quite the same as a CD. Difficult to put your finger on. There's certainly a sonic issue that when you actually are in the audience with the acoustics of the hall around you, you hear the sounds in a completely different way. It comes from all directions, and the orchestra is quite spaced out in some way. So if there's cellos to your right or violins to your left, there's a stereophonic or quadraphonic or whatever the next step up is effect that you would never get from a CD or a record. But there's this sense of occasion as well, which is very. It starts with when the orchestra starts tuning, and it's a bit of a cliche in movies and stuff like that. But they all tune to their A, and you have the sense of, wow, it's about to happen, and there's it's hard to put in words, but there is a sense of occasion that goes with it as well, and the people around you, and they're all really focused on the music, and you can see the players, which for a community orchestra is very important, is the engagement of the players, the enthusiasm of the players. You can see that they are enjoying performing, and that rubs off in some way on how people perceive it in the audience, and that's something we work on very hard to make sure that everybody is engaged while they play. It's not just about the technical perfection of the notes, but also the sense of these guys are on stage, they're performing for me, and that's something you would never get out of a CD.
The Concert of Classical Music is at 3 p.m. Sunday the 23rd of November at Tauranga Boys College. Tickets are available via iTicket. Up next, fire risk means a need for more volunteers. Welcome back to Central News. As the weather warms up, so does the fire risk, especially for our rural areas, which puts volunteer firefighters in hot demand. Nathan Benito, Chief Fire Officer for Putaruru, talks to Amanda Harper about their call out for more volunteers.
Nathan, what brings you to Central News today?
I've come to Central News today as we are looking for some more volunteers for our fire brigade. We're up after a couple of operational members, firefighters, and we're also looking at extending our operational support. So we're looking for another 4 to 6 members for that.
So what, when you say operational support, like what kind of jobs are you talking about?
Operational support to work more of the outer cordon of the incidents. So they look after our backs while we're actually dealing with the incident. So yeah, they do. They just look after us basically.
And why do you need more volunteers?
We need to keep our numbers up so we can guarantee to our community that they are protected and we can actually roll the trucks out the door and do our job.
Yeah, and are there any specific attributes that you're looking for, like say volunteer firefighters?
Mainly somebody that wants to give to the community. That's the biggest one. There are a bit of physical fitness, I suppose. You don't have to be an athlete. But yeah, definitely, if you're wanting to give back to your community, it's a great place to start.
Yeah, and how much training is involved?
There's a lot of training. We do train every Monday night locally. There are courses throughout the New Zealand Fire Service to bring you up to speed with doing the role.
Yeah, and do they need to have had experience?
No, they don't, because the courses that are offered through the New Zealand Fire Service bring them up to speed. And it's the best training that they can get to do their job.
Yeah. So this is voluntary. Is it quite a big task to take on as a volunteer with it not being paid?
Yes and no. It's you sort of give what you can because family and work do come first. But yeah, it's definitely a great reward doing the role. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And where in the Waikato can they come from? Do they have to be close to Putaruru?
Yes, unfortunately we do need them to hopefully live in Putaruru. We do have a certain time we need to get the trucks out the door when the siren goes, the emergencies are happening. So basically, living in Putaruru is ideal.
Yeah, now you've just recently taken on the role as Chief Fire Officer. Tell me how that's going for you.
It's a great challenge. Yeah. It's I've been deputy for about 5.5 years and sort of learning the role, and I'm really looking forward to it and having a go.
Yeah, now also summer is almost upon us. What are the fire hazards specific for the Waikato region?
Some of our biggest ones are more the rural fires. As it sort of dries out a bit more, and we certainly need people to go and get the permits from the council, and that's probably one of our biggest risks.
Yeah, and also lastly, what's coming up next year that you are involved with?
Next year, us at Batari will organising a fire camp. So it involves many fire trucks driving around Batari, attending mock incidents that we set up, and it's a weekend of great fun for everyone that comes along.
Yeah, and what's the most rewarding part of your job?
Most rewarding would be just giving back to the community, helping out our fellow citizens, and getting their job done well.
Now, for someone that does want to become a volunteer firefighter, how do they get in touch with you?
Best thing is probably come down to the Batari Fire Station about 10 to 7 on a Monday night, and just come on in and ask me.
Is that joining in with the training?
Basically, they can come for a look first and see what we do, and see what's definitely for them. Yeah.
Yeah, and whereabouts are you located?
Overdale Street in Batari.
Overdale Street in Potato. Excellent. Well, there we go. Hopefully you'll get some more
Yes,
volunteers come down.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're not too busy though this summer.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nathan.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Now for Tuesday's weather. Now for the marine forecast. That is the program for today. If you have anything you'd like to share with us, you can via our Facebook page, Central News TV, or email news@tvcentral.co.nz. On tomorrow night's program, we meet a local mother living out of her car, the regional winners of a Young Enterprise Scheme, and the Waiho community. Until then, I'm Hilary Entwistle, and I hope you have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.